The Galactic War Council chamber was built to intimidate. The room was massive, carved from dark crystal stone that reflected the cold light of distant stars. A giant round table stood in the center. Around it sat the most powerful war leaders in the known galaxy. These were not peaceful diplomats. They were conquerors. Some of them had destroyed entire civilizations. Others had led wars that lasted centuries. Their armor was heavy, their bodies scarred, and their names were feared across hundreds of star systems. Yet today, the atmosphere in the chamber felt different. Quiet, uneasy. At the center of the table floated a glowing star map. Thousands of systems were marked with different colors. Green for allies, yellow for neutral worlds, and red for dangerous territories. One small section of the map glowed a deep, warning red. Human territory. Most of the warlords avoided looking at it, but one young commander stared at it with interest. Commander Zerath of the Kralon Empire leaned back in his seat. His long silver armor reflected the map's light, and a confident smile rested on his sharp face. He was young compared to the others in the room. Young, ambitious, and hungry for glory. To him, this meeting felt unnecessary. Finally, he spoke. "So this is why we gathered?" Zerath asked with a laugh. "To talk about humans?" Several generals shifted uncomfortably. No one answered. Zerath looked around the table, surprised by their silence. "These are the famous warriors of the galaxy," he continued. "The conquerors of star systems?" He pointed at the red section of the map. "And you are all afraid of this?" Still, no one spoke. The silence grew heavy. Then a slow, deep voice finally broke it. "You do not understand." All eyes turned toward the oldest figure in the chamber. Warlord Threx. His body was large and covered with old battle scars. Half of his armor looked ancient, worn from countless wars. One of his eyes had been replaced with a glowing mechanical lens. He had lived longer than most civilizations, and he had fought more battles than anyone in the room. Zerath respected his reputation, but not his caution. "Then explain it," Zerath said. "Why does the Council treat humans like some unstoppable force?" Threx slowly stood. The room became completely silent. Without speaking, the old warlord reached forward and touched the star map. The map zoomed outward. Hundreds of systems appeared. Then Threx began marking them, one after another. Each system turned dark gray. Dead systems. "These worlds attacked humans," Threx said quietly. Zerath frowned. "How many?" Threx stopped marking. The map showed nearly 200 gray systems. 217, Threx replied. Murmurs spread across the chamber. Even experienced generals looked uncomfortable seeing the number. Zerath crossed his arms. "Coincidence," he said confidently. Threx slowly turned his mechanical eye toward him. "Is it?" The room fell silent again. Zerath leaned forward. "Humans are new to the galaxy," he said. "They have only been here for a few centuries. Their territory is small. Their population is limited." He pointed at the red area. "They are weak." Some generals quietly shook their heads. Zerath noticed but ignored them. "If we attacked now," he continued, "we could destroy them before they grow stronger." Threx walked slowly around the table. His heavy footsteps echoed through the chamber. "You speak with confidence," the old warlord said. "But confidence without knowledge is dangerous." Zerath smirked. "Then tell me the truth." Threx stopped walking. "The truth is simple," he said. He looked directly at Zerath. "Attacking humans is not war." The chamber felt colder. "It is suicide." A few generals nodded slowly. But Zerath laughed. Loudly. "Suicide," he repeated. "You expect me to believe that?" Threx did not react. "Humans are soft creatures," Zerath continued. "Their bodies are fragile. Their lifespans are short. Their worlds are unstable." He leaned forward with confidence. "They should be easy to defeat." One of the other generals finally spoke. General Varric, a massive reptilian warrior. "You are wrong," Varric said quietly. Zerath looked at him. "Then explain." Varric hesitated before speaking again. "Humans come from a death world." Several younger officers in the room shifted nervously. Death worlds were rare. Worlds where survival itself was a daily battle. Extreme weather. Dangerous predators. Constant natural disasters. Most intelligent species evolved on calm, stable planets. But Death World species were different. They were survivors. Zerath waved a hand dismissively. "Many species come from harsh worlds," he said. Varric shook his head. "Not like Earth." The name hung in the air. Earth. The human homeworld. Threx spoke again. "On their world, the old warlord said slowly. Everything tries to kill them. Zerath raised an eyebrow. Predators? Predators. Storms. Diseases. Each other. The room was silent again. Each other? Zerath repeated. Threx nodded. For thousands of years, humans fought constant wars on their own planet. Zerath shrugged. So have many species. But humans survived all of it, Threx replied. And they learned. The old warlord tapped the star map again. Images appeared above the table. Destroyed alien fleets. Burning planets. Broken warships floating in space. These are the results of attacking human colonies, Threx said. Zerath studied the images. Still unimpressed. Maybe those species were simply weak. Some generals looked angry at that comment. One of those defeated species had been a powerful empire. But Zerath didn't care. He stood up confidently. Then let us test this legend, he said. The chamber immediately filled with whispers. Threx's mechanical eye glowed slightly brighter. You want to attack them? Yes. Why? Zerath smiled. Glory. He pointed at the map again. If humans are truly dangerous, defeating them will bring honor to my empire. And if they are weak, he continued, we gain their territory. Several council members looked alarmed. Varric leaned forward. This is a mistake. Zerath ignored him. My fleet is ready, he said. 200 warships. The chamber went silent again. Even Threx looked concerned. You will regret this, the old warlord said quietly. Zerath turned toward the exit. We will see. He paused at the door. Perhaps when I return, he added confidently, the galaxy will finally stop fearing humans. Then he left. The chamber doors closed behind him with a deep metallic sound. For several moments, no one spoke. Finally, Varric turned to Threx. Should we stop him? Threx stared at the star map. The red human territory glowed softly. No, he said. Varric looked surprised. Why not? Threx sighed. Because some lessons cannot be taught. He pointed to the gray systems again. They must be experienced. Far away, in deep space, Zerath's fleet prepared for hyperspace travel. 200 powerful warships lined up in formation. Massive engines glowed with energy. Thousands of alien soldiers waited inside, confident in their strength. Commander Zerath stood on the bridge of his flagship. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewing window. His first officer approached. Coordinates for the human border are ready, Commander. Zerath smiled. Excellent. The officer hesitated. Sir, are the council warnings truly meaningless? Zerath turned toward the window. Fear spreads faster than truth, he said calmly. Then he gave the order. Jump to human territory. Moments later, the fleet vanished into hyperspace. Hours passed. Then space twisted. Bright blue energy cracked across the darkness. One by one, the Kralon warships appeared near the human border. The fleet slowly moved forward. But something felt strange. The region was quiet. Too quiet. No patrol ships. No defense stations. No warning signals. Just empty space. Zerath frowned slightly. Scan the area, he ordered. The sensor officer worked quickly. No large fleets detected. Zerath smiled again. See, he said to his crew. Nothing to fear. But then the officer spoke again. Commander, there is one ship. Zerath raised an eyebrow. Only one. Yes. The main screen displayed the image. A single human warship floated in the darkness. Small. Simple. Completely alone. Several bridge officers laughed. Zerath leaned forward. This is the terrifying human defense, he said with amusement. He opened a communication channel. The human ship answered almost immediately. A calm human voice filled the bridge. You have crossed the border of human territory. Zerath smiled. Yes. The human voice continued. You were warned not to do that. Zerath laughed. Warned by frightened old warriors. The human paused for a moment. Then replied quietly. Understood. Zerath leaned back in his chair. Prepare to fire. The weapons officer aimed at the lone human ship. Energy cannons began charging. The human voice spoke again. Last chance to leave. Zerath shook his head. Destroy it. The alien fleet fired. Brilliant beams of energy struck the small human ship. For a moment, the ship glowed brightly. Then it exploded. The bridge filled with cheers. Zerath stood proudly. Victory is always easier than legends claim. But suddenly, the sensor officer froze. Commander. Zerath turned. What is it? The officer's voice trembled. I'm detecting new signals. How many? The officer looked at the screen, then slowly whispered, "Hundreds." The bridge became silent. Dots began appearing across the star map. Behind moons. Inside asteroid belts. Hidden in deep space. More signals. More ships. Dozens. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Zerath's confident smile slowly disappeared. And far away, a calm human commander watched the alien fleet on his screen. Then he quietly gave a single order. Activate the trap. The stars around the Kralon fleet seemed ordinary at first. Quiet. Still. The alien warships glided through the void, confident in their power. Commander Zerath stood on the bridge of his flagship, his silver armor shining under the lights of his control deck. He had destroyed the first human ship. That was enough, he thought, to prove their weakness. But then the blinking lights on the radar caught his attention. "Commander, there are multiple new contacts appearing," the sensor officer said, voice trembling. "How many?" Zerath asked casually, almost bored. 10 no, 2050 sir, hundreds." Zerath frowned. The calm arrogance he had carried since leaving the council room began to flicker. He waved a hand. "Impossible. They could not have built that many ships so quickly." The radar screen began to fill with dots, forming patterns the officers could not recognize. "Sir, they're surrounding us," the weapons officer shouted. "On every flank." Zerath turned to the main display. There, spread across the dark void of space, were thousands of human ships. Small. Fast. Efficient. Unlike any fleet he had ever seen. The alien warships, built for raw firepower, now looked enormous, slow, and vulnerable. "Formation Delta." Zerath yelled. "Prepare for battle." The alien fleet formed lines, energy cannons powering up. Every officer braced for the fight they had expected to be a simple victory. The human commander's voice came through the communication channel again. Calm, cold, almost casual. "You fired the first shot. You destroyed the first warning ship. Now you will face the consequences." Zerath laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Consequences? We are 200 warships. You are alone. What can you possibly do?" The human commander's reply was short. "Alone? I'm never alone." Before the aliens could react, the humans began moving. At first, the Kralon officers thought it was strange. The ships weren't moving in normal formations. No standard attack patterns. They darted through space like predators, slipping between asteroids, jumping in and out of view, appearing behind moons, and suddenly firing from angles the aliens hadn't thought possible. "Shields failing on the Vanguard," one officer shouted. "They're everywhere." Zerath clenched his fists. "Focus fire. Concentrate on the center." But every time the aliens tried to focus their weapons, new human ships appeared, attacking from unexpected positions. One group of Kralon cruisers flew into an asteroid field, only to realize too late that the humans were waiting inside. Boarding parties descended. Alien soldiers screamed as humans struck with precision and speed. "How is this possible?" Zerath whispered. His voice was no longer filled with arrogance. Now it was edged with fear. A communications alert went off. The human voice, calm and unwavering, spoke again. "You are not ready for this war. You attacked without reason. You ignored every warning." The aliens fired more energy blasts, but the humans anticipated each move. Every attack that struck a human ship seemed to trigger another, faster, stronger counterattack. Alien warships that were considered invincible moments ago were being torn apart like toys. Zerath's flagship shook violently as a massive human warship rammed one of their side cruisers. The resulting explosion sent shockwaves through the fleet. Panels broke, alarms blared, and the bridge shook as the first real panic began to spread among the officers. "Sir, the fleet is breaking formation," the tactical officer shouted. Zerath gritted his teeth. "Regroup. Regroup immediately." But it was too late. The humans had already adapted. Small squads of their ships moved like coordinated predators. The alien fleet, once confident in their size and strength, now looked clumsy and slow in comparison. "They're different," one of the younger officers whispered. "Yes," Zerath admitted quietly, though he hated to say it. "They're fighting differently. Smarter, faster, brutal." The human commander watched from the bridge of his flagship, a small smile playing at the edge of his lips. He wasn't shouting, panicking, or even celebrating. He simply observed. Every movement of the Kralon fleet was met with precision. Every mistake punished instantly. Zerath's arrogance began to crumble. His mind raced. How can one species fight like this? They're small. Their numbers limited. They should not be able to. His words trailed off. Sir, they're boarding our ships, shouted the officer at the tactical console. Boarding? Zerath turned sharply. Impossible. Deploy the anti-boarding defenses. But the humans were already inside, on multiple ships simultaneously. The alien soldiers, trained for centuries in battle, were being outmaneuvered in close combat by smaller, faster, relentless humans. Some officers screamed as their comrades were taken down. Others froze, unsure how to respond. Zerath's flagship was now under direct attack. He could see the human boarding parties on the view screen, moving like shadows in the corridors of his massive ship. The humans fought not just with weapons, but with strategy, patience, and terrifying determination. They never retreat, a young officer muttered. No, Zerath whispered to himself. They never do. The battle raged on, and the Kralon fleet began to crumble. Ships that had been proud symbols of power were being destroyed faster than they could fire. The energy of the human weapons was strange, efficient, deadly, and unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Zerath's confidence was gone. Fear replaced it. Panic crept in where arrogance had once thrived. The realization hit him slowly, painfully. He had underestimated humans. He had ignored warnings. And now he was paying the price. The human commander issued a simple order. Encircle them. Leave no escape. The remaining human fleet moved like a shadow around the Kralon ships. Every alien vessel trapped. Every escape route blocked. The humans attacked relentlessly, and with terrifying precision. Zerath tried to speak, to rally his officers, but even his voice seemed weaker. The pride he had carried for years was slipping through his fingers. A massive explosion rocked the flagship. Panels cracked. Smoke filled the bridge. One of the young officers screamed as another warning light blinked red. The human commander's voice came over the channel again, calm and unhurried. Stop running. Stop hiding. You should have left when you had the chance. Zerath's hands clenched the edge of the command table. Why are they so strong? One of the surviving officers answered quietly. Sir, they are not just strong, they are humans. Zerath's heart sank. He knew that name now carried weight. The warning from the Galactic Council, the old warlords' advice, and every story of destroyed fleets that he had ignored. All of it became real in that moment. Humans were not just dangerous. They were a force that could not be defeated through arrogance or numbers alone. The flagship shook again. Another massive human ship rammed into it, sending sparks and energy surges through the bridge. The crew screamed, running to contain fires and damaged systems. Zerath turned to the communication officer. Contact the humans. Tell them we surrender. The officer hesitated. Commander, they might not accept surrender. Zerath's teeth gritted. Do it. Now. The communication channel opened. Silence. Then the calm human voice spoke again. Surrender? No. You fired first. You destroyed our ship. There is no turning back. Zerath's knees went weak. He realized the truth. This was no ordinary fight. This was a punishment. A reckoning for arrogance. And humans never forgot. A sudden warning blared through the bridge. Another explosion rocked the ship. The weapon systems were offline. Hull breaches reported in multiple sections. Smoke filled the room. Crew members fell to the floor, coughing panicked. Zerath fell back into his chair, staring blankly at the view screen. The human fleet moved seamlessly, surrounding his flagship completely. Every exit blocked. Every weapon neutralized. From the view screen, the human commander spoke one last time. You were warned. You ignored it. Now you will learn the consequences of attacking humans. Zerath looked around. The bridges of the other Kralon ships were in flames. The fleet that had entered human territory with arrogance, with pride, with confidence, was now in ruins. And as the first real human boarding parties began to storm his flagship, Zerath realized the one truth he could not escape. They had underestimated humans. And in doing so, they had sealed their fate. Far away, across the galaxy, the old warlord Threx watched the battle report. His mechanical eye glowed faintly. He whispered, almost to himself, I warned them. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. And the humans waited. Patient. Relentless. Deadly. Because the first mistake of the Kralon fleet was simple. They had attacked humans. And that mistake would cost them everything. The stars outside the shattered viewports of the Kralon flagship burned silently. Smoke drifted through the bridge, choking the crew. Sparks danced across cracked panels as alarms blared. Commander Zerath sat frozen in his command chair, his silver armor scuffed and scorched. His pride, his confidence, and his arrogance, all gone. The humans were everywhere. Not in the way he expected. They were not just attacking, they were hunting. Like predators moving in perfect synchronization. Every Kralon warship trapped, every escape route cut off. Energy beams darted like lightning through the void, striking ships in unexpected places. Hulls cracked, shields collapsed, and alien soldiers screamed in terror as their once powerful fleet fell apart around them. Zerath's voice, usually commanding and loud, trembled slightly. How can one species fight like this? One of the surviving officers replied, voice low and trembling. They aren't just fighting, Commander. They are learning. Every move we make, they adapt immediately. Faster, smarter, brutal. Zerath stared at the view screen, disbelief written across his face. The humans were small, almost insignificant in numbers compared to his fleet. Yet the way they moved, the way they struck, it was more effective than 200 warships worth of firepower. The humans began boarding alien ships systematically. Not randomly. They targeted command centers first, then weapon systems, then engines. It was as if every human soldier knew exactly what to do. Every Kralon officer incapacitated before they could react. Sir, sensors show they are coordinating without communication, said the tactical officer. How is that possible? Zerath didn't answer. He couldn't. He had no answer. And the truth began to sink in. Humans were not like any other species in the galaxy. The human fleet commander's voice came over the comm system again, calm, unwavering. You thought you could attack humans without consequence. You were wrong. You ignored every warning. And now, you will understand why the galaxy fears us. Zerath gritted his teeth. I will not be defeated by them. The flagship shook violently as a human boarding party entered through the hull breach. Fire spread across the control room. Panels sparked. Crew members ran for cover, screaming. Yet the humans moved with terrifying precision. Smaller, lighter, faster, they struck with brutal efficiency. Every Kralon soldier fell in seconds. Zerath's pride clashed with the cold reality. Humans were not just soldiers. They were predators. He had underestimated them, and now the truth was painfully clear. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, alien ships that had survived the initial boarding attempts were being destroyed by unconventional human tactics. The humans used asteroid belts to ambush massive cruisers. They infiltrated through decoy ships, striking critical systems without warning. They even used the very environment of space, the radiation fields, magnetic storms, and asteroid clusters, to their advantage. The older officers in the fleet whispered among themselves. They're impossible, one muttered. We have never seen anything like this. Impossible? Zerath snapped, turning to him. They're humans. They're weak. They cannot possibly. A sudden explosion cut him off. The entire side of his flagship shook violently. Sparks flew everywhere. Smoke filled the room, and alarms screamed. The bridge fell into chaos. Crew members screamed. Systems failed. The humans had boarded again, striking simultaneously at multiple points. Zerath fell back into his chair, gripping the edges tightly. He could see their faces through the viewports, the humans moving silently, efficiently, unafraid of death. Every move calculated. Every move calculated. Every strike fatal. The tactical officer spoke again, voice trembling. Sir, they are relentless. Even damaged ships, they continue attacking. They don't retreat. Not ever. Zerath's mind raced. How can this be? No species survives like this. They should. Adapted, whispered another officer. They survive everything. On their homeworld, they learned war. They learned pain. They learned death. Zerath froze. The words echoed in his mind. Death worlds. Harsh planets. Endless predators. Endless wars. Humans had survived it all. They had evolved not to be strong in numbers or size or raw power, but in adaptability. In patience. In cunning. And now, that skill was turned on his fleet. Zerath turned to the main screen again. The human commander appeared. Small, unassuming. Calm. Almost serene. But the alien could feel the deadly intelligence radiating from him. You wanted to test humans, the commander said. You wanted glory. You wanted to prove the legends wrong. You destroyed our first ship. And now you face the truth. A sudden explosion shook the flagship again. Energy weapons were offline. Life support systems faltered. Smoke filled the room. Crew members collapsed from the heat and fumes. "Sir, our fleet, we are losing everything," yelled one officer. Zerath stood unsteadily. We still have firepower. We can regroup." "No, sir," the tactical officer replied, voice trembling. "They've anticipated our every move. Every attack fails before it even begins. We cannot escape. We cannot fight back effectively." Zerath's mind flashed to the council warnings. The old warlord Threx's words. Attacking humans is not war. It is suicide. He had ignored them all. Now he understood. And far worse, he realized that survival was not possible for the bulk of his fleet. The humans were precise, relentless, and unforgiving. Any alien ship that strayed even slightly from formation was immediately targeted and destroyed. From the viewports, Zerath watched as more of his ships exploded, their metal torn apart by rapid, precise human strikes. Boarded ships vanished into chaos. Alien soldiers were either dead or retreating in terror. The humans had turned the battle into a nightmare. Zerath's flagship was surrounded on all sides. He could see the human ships forming a tight circle, moving in perfect unison, closing in. Escape was impossible. "Sir, what do we do?" asked the weapons officer, voice shaking. Zerath didn't answer. He couldn't. He realized the only strategy left was surrender. But the humans, they might not accept it. And then the human commander spoke again. Calm, almost cold. "You attacked first. You destroyed our ship. You ignored warnings. There is no turning back now." Zerath sank into his chair. The fire of his pride was gone. He looked at his remaining crew. Their faces were pale, fearful, hopeless. And yet, through the chaos, Zerath noticed something. The humans never panicked. Their ships moved with flawless precision. Their soldiers struck with perfect timing. Even when cornered, they fought harder, smarter, faster. A slow, horrifying realization hit him. Humans were not just dangerous. They were unstoppable. The tactical officer whispered, almost to himself, "Sir, they're not fighting like other species. They're not just attacking, they're executing a strategy. We're being hunted." Zerath nodded slowly, fear and awe mixing in his expression. "Yes, they are predators. And we are prey." The human commander appeared on the main display again. "You wanted to learn about humans," he said. "Now you will understand why the galaxy fears us. Not because of weapons. Not because of numbers. Not because of brute force." The words hung in the air. Because humans never give up. Humans never surrender. Humans survive everything. And humans finish what they start. Another explosion rocked the flagship. The main communications panel flickered, showing the destruction of nearby ships. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled every corner. Zerath gritted his teeth. We cannot survive this. Not even half the fleet can survive." The human commander's voice came again. Calm. Icy. Certain. "You attacked humans. You thought us weak. You thought us fragile. You were wrong. Always remember this, Commander Zerath. Attacking humans is not war. It is extinction." Zerath slumped in his chair. The battle around him raged on, but he knew it was already lost. The humans were not just strong. They were the embodiment of survival, adaptation, and lethal patience. And the galaxy would soon learn to fear humans. Because they had never seen anything like this before. And after this battle, they would never forget it. The Kralon fleet was in chaos. Smoke and fire filled the vacuum of space around their flagship. Thousands of ships, once symbols of power, now floated in ruins, twisted metal glowing faintly as energy leaks burned through the hulls. Commander Zerath sat in his command chair, hands gripping the edges tightly. His mind raced. Every strategy he had learned, every battle tactic he had mastered, was useless. The humans were everywhere. They had surrounded the fleet completely, moving like shadows across the stars. Every escape route blocked. Every weapon system neutralized. Every ship, no matter its size or firepower, was at the mercy of humans who were small, relentless, and terrifyingly smart. Zerath's pride, once unshakable, had been replaced with fear. Panic crept into the remaining crew. Some ran to battle stations, hoping to fight their way out. Others stood frozen, knowing it was already over. The communication system beeped. The human commander's calm voice filled the flagship. "Commander Zerath, you attacked humans without reason. You ignored warnings. You destroyed our first ship. And now there is no turning back." Zerath's mouth opened, but he could barely speak. We can still retreat. We can regroup. A violent explosion shook the flagship, cutting off his words. Alarms blared. Panels shattered. Smoke filled the room, and crew members fell to the floor, coughing. One of the officers whispered, voice trembling, "Sir, we cannot survive this. Not even half the fleet can escape." Zerath's eyes scanned the view screen. The humans had coordinated perfectly. Smaller ships darted between larger ones, attacking weak points. Boarding parties moved with precision, disabling engines, destroying weapons, and striking alien soldiers without mercy. Every Krylon ship that tried to escape was intercepted and destroyed. The truth hit Zerath like a tidal wave. Humans did not fight like other species. They were not just soldiers. They were predators, shaped by survival on a death world, hardened by centuries of struggle. The human commander appeared on the main screen, calm, collected, his gaze piercing through the chaos. "You wanted to learn about humans, Commander Zerath," he said. "Now you will understand why the galaxy fears us. Not because of weapons, not because of numbers, not because of technology. Humans survive everything, and humans finish what they start." Zerath's heart pounded. His mind raced. He realized, with growing horror, that every warning from the Galactic Council, every tale of lost fleets, every word from the old warlord Threx had been true. And he had ignored them all. The flagship shook violently as human boarding parties breached the main doors. Smaller, faster humans moved through the corridors with deadly precision. Alien soldiers tried to resist, but they were outmatched, outmaneuvered, and overwhelmed. One by one they fell. "Sir, they are inside the command deck," shouted the tactical officer. Zerath stood, drawing his energy blade. His armor had sustained damage, but he was still alive. "Then we fight," he said, voice trembling with anger and fear. "We fight to the last breath." The doors exploded inward. Humans poured into the command deck, moving like shadows. They didn't shout. They didn't hesitate. Every strike was precise, calculated, and lethal. Zerath and his officers fought back, but it was hopeless. Humans moved faster than the eye could follow, striking from angles no alien had expected. The battle was short. Within moments, the Krylon officers were defeated. Zerath stood alone, cornered in the middle of the command deck. Smoke curled around him, lights flickered, and alarms blared. The humans surrounded him completely. Zerath dropped to his knees, chest heaving. His pride was gone. His fleet destroyed. His arrogance crushed under the weight of reality. A human soldier stepped forward, pointing a small, glowing weapon at him. But the commander's voice spoke again before any action could be taken. "Commander Zerath," he said. "Do you understand now?" Zerath's voice was barely a whisper. I do. You humans are dangerous, deadly, unstoppable," the human commander interrupted. "Yes, but it is not just that. We are survivors. We adapt. We endure. We fight not because we want war, but because we cannot ignore it when it comes to us. And we always finish the fight." Zerath hung his head. The realization was bitter. The pride of 1,000 victories meant nothing here. Humans had taught him, in one battle, what centuries of arrogance could not. Attacking them is not war. It is suicide. The human commander gestured, and the surviving Krylon ships were systematically neutralized. Engines disabled, weapons destroyed, communication systems wiped out. The fleet, once powerful, was now scattered wreckage, drifting in space like tombstones. Far away, in the Galactic War Council chamber, Warlord Threx watched the battle reports. His mechanical eye glowed faintly as he murmured, "I warned them. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way." Zerath was dragged from the command deck to a holding ship. He looked out at the remnants of his fleet, burning and floating helplessly in the dark. His fear was complete. You spared me?" he asked, voice trembling. The human commander shook his head. "We are not merciless. We teach. The galaxy will know the truth now." Zerath bowed his head in shame. I understand." The humans returned to their territory, leaving behind the wreckage of the Krylon fleet. The galaxy would not soon forget the lesson. Weeks later, at the Galactic Council, reports of the battle reached every corner. Alien species whispered in fear. Warlords and generals took new oaths, ensuring no one would make the same mistake again. A new law was added to the Council's codes, written in bold letters. Never attack human territory. Attacking humans is not war. It is extinction. Across the galaxy, stories spread of the humans who had survived impossible odds, adapted faster than any alien species, and punished arrogance with unmatched precision. Commander Zerath, once proud and ambitious, now lived as a reminder. He was a witness to humans' deadly patience, their intelligence, their strength. A living testament to a lesson the galaxy would never forget. Humans returned to their worlds, quiet and unassuming, but the legacy of their power echoed across the stars. Planets once thought vulnerable were now fortresses of survival. Ships smaller than the Kralon warships moved with deadly efficiency. Soldiers, trained for battle on a death world, became legends whispered among alien species. The human commander looked out at the stars from his bridge, calm, knowing the galaxy had finally learned the truth. They had underestimated humans. And the cost of that mistake had been total annihilation for anyone foolish enough to challenge them. The galaxy would never forget. Because humans did not just fight, they endured. They adapted. They survived. And above all, they always finished the fight,